Welcome to the podcast, Fawn and Jill, my lovely wife, and Daniel's lovely wife.
Buddy just introduced his wife as another woman's name, which is very interesting. We're having a hard time centering ourselves.
That's right. Had to lighten the mood.
Buddy, they do say in the business books that behind every amazing male entrepreneur is, finish that sentence,
An even more amazing female entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yeah. No business book has ever said that, but it is a nice lead into today's pod. Our dear wives are on, and as we thought about, hey, why is this important to the trajectory of the podcast, and what kind of content we want to produce, but I think we both would heartily agree that our businesses, our communal businesses, would not be where they're at now if this wasn't a joint effort. Fawn and me, you and Jill. Mm-hmm. And so I think we'd do a bit of discredit to our spouses if they're not a part of this business podcast, because without them, we certainly wouldn't be in the position that we're in now.
Yeah. And
Where do you think you'd be if you and Jill weren't?
I'd be somewhere in a trailer, out in a field.
Some cows.
Just grazing with the cows. I'd be moving with the herd in my trailer. Yeah, I think also there's a lot of business owners that work with their spouses in some capacity, or they're just dealing with the relationship of work relationship and marital relationship. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting topic for us to explore as a group and kind of discover what's there and share our experience of working together. Because I think it's pretty relatable, even if you aren't maybe working directly with your spouse, just navigating the balance of work and having your relationship.
Yes, and just to preface this whole thing, this isn't to be confused with you can't be a successful entrepreneur if you're not married. Just our experience has been, and knowing you and I as people, we wouldn't be where we're at without our spouses. And there's a certain...
It's more than fair.
Yeah, it's certain richness to working with your spouse. And so that's why we wanted to have Fawn and Jill on and hear a little bit from them and to talk about specifically the dynamics of working with your spouse within a place-based business. So, Jill, would you mind starting us off and just describing your role with Big Spring Farm and what does business look like for you?
Well, my title is self-dubbed I could be the president. I'm the president.
You are the president.
I'm the president. Also the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer. I went to school for business marketing, and I'm a creative at heart, so I really love anything creative, design. I was a photographer for 11 years, so a lot of the creative stuff I do for the farm, Instagram, website stuff, photography. Yeah,
all of the forward-facing stuff is...
Right, visually.
Yeah, done by your hand.
Yeah. That's a short answer.
That's great. Okay. Yeah, that's great. I mean, and you're doing all the backside for the podcast as well.
Oh, yes. I'm a podcast producer now. I like that title as well. Add it to the resume. Yeah.
Jill, you also are Jill's got the tech side of things. I'm not particularly tech savvy. And so, Jill, whenever we have, like the podcast, whenever we have a tech issue we need to navigate.
I'm just okay to figure things. I like to figure things out or teach myself certain things. So I don't
like to figure things out.
No. In the tech world, I'm okay with trying to watch a million YouTube videos to learn a certain program or something. So I enjoy that. Yeah. So yeah, that's helpful.
Awesome. Fawn?
My role in the business. Well, I take care of all the Airbnb, just the interactions with the, texting them or welcoming them. I am in charge of coffee on bread day, making up the coffee flavors too that are at our cafe. And then also you have given me full reign of creating the menus at our cafe. So kind of...
Wow.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. They're so good.
Oh, thanks guys.
So good.
Yeah. So I kind of had that up.
And then where is the bulk of your time spent? If it's not doing business, it's...
Well, bulk of my days are at home homeschooling our children, 5 children.
And doing the laundry.
And doing the laundry and cooking and keeping them alive.
A day-to-day operation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Give a little back to what y'all's roles are. Let's jump into the highs and lows about working together. I think there's a lot of different ways we could take this, but maybe some big wave tops about maybe some unexpected joys, maybe some unexpected trouble points that we've encountered along the way. But maybe let's stay big picture and talk highs and lows of working together in the business.
I can go first.
Oh, yeah.
I can lead us off.
Go for it.
So one thing I think about is when you're working together in your marriage, it can be a really powerful dynamic because, God made each of you different. You have different skills, yet you're fully committed to each other in the marriage. And so when you get behind something in the business sense, it can be really powerful. So I think a high for Jill and I has been like figuring out how to mesh our strengths. And we don't always do it well, but when we do, it's really, really fun and effective. Like we do things like you were saying at the beginning of the podcast, we were kind of joking about, but truly like I wouldn't be able to do the things that we've done together by myself. It just wouldn't have happened. And I think vice versa. Like there's things I can do that you're not going to do that, that's definitely a high of working together. And I would say for anybody like thinking about working with their spouse or currently working with their spouse, that's something to lean into, is really like self-assessing. Okay, what am I good at? What is she good at? How can we make that symbiotic and go after the same goal?
You all started your business working relationship right after you were married or simultaneous with. How did that development occur of figuring out each other's strengths and weaknesses? You're trying to figure out how to be married, and you're also trying to figure out how to run a successful business. Was that easy? Was that hard?
Well, some of it was easy, some of it was hard.
Yeah.
We've been married for 13 and a half years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So we started, full-time farming, and I started my wedding photography business full-time right when we got married. It was just all in the same excuse me. Yeah. So we don't know any different, and some things worked, some things we've had to work at. And I think I often hear two different perspectives of when people hear we work together. Some people are like in the camp of like, oh, that must be so great. You're just always together. You can do everything together. And that must be so wonderful. And then other people are like, oh, I could never work with my spouse, like being with them all day or having to deal with stuff. And I think that first camp, it's kind of idealized because you don't realize that you're going to encounter a lot of tension,
Conflicts still
Yeah.
arise.
Yeah. And
Even though you love each other.
And it's going to probably happen faster than if you're doing totally separate things in your career and you're not often working together. And then the other camp, I feel like they probably are leaning more into the, oh gosh, there's so many things we're going to have to deal with. Like I could never deal with his blank or her, the way she does this. And they understand that the conflict that would arise. So it's a little bit of both for us. We've noticed, there's so many benefits and then there's so many, we'll call them opportunities for growth that we've experienced.
Yes.
And we definitely have not done great at it at all times. Like we'll probably talk about this. We have a marriage coach who we've worked with for 5 years. Her name is Julia Woods, and she's been instrumental in helping us just as individuals grow, but definitely grow in our marriage and thus in our businesses, being able to work together and resolve conflict and communicate more clearly and take ownership of what, we're bringing to a situation. And so there's great highs, and for us, there have been low lows. But I think ultimately the best gift of being in business together is sort of the pressure that we, because we're in business, we've been forced to face certain things about the way we reconcile or the way we communicate, and really
we
grow.
deal with like an outside problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And, how are we going to respond in a stressful situation? We've had to really address that head on. Can't ignore it when it's like, well, this is our livelihood, so we got to figure this out. Or we can just be miserable, and we don't want to be miserable. So, yeah, there's been lots of highs, lots of lows, lots of learning, I feel like, in the 13 and a half years that we've been in business and been in marriage.
Yeah, we talk about it too, like, like if I had a 9-to-5 job and how I'd be gone, 5 days a week doing that versus, and if we were married for 13 years with me having that 9-to-5 job.
Or me having the 9
Or Jill having, whatever. Both of us. Versus because our 9-to-5 job is together, just the amount of proportional time we've spent together.
We've been married for like 40 years.
Yeah.
Dog years.
Yeah. In dog years, it's like 5 times as long as the actual 13
That's so
years.
true.
Because we're every breakfast, lunch, and dinner, every meal we're together, almost every problem we're figuring out together. Every mountaintop we're high-fiving, it's all there. So yeah.
And just to add,
it's been more like 50 years.
One of the gifts I think has been the encouragement, because it's so hard to be an entrepreneur on your own. You guys often talk about community, and a lot of the guests on this podcast have talked about the importance of community. And I think if your marriage is in a good place, and if you can get a healthy community together between the two of you, it's really powerful. Just the encouragement. Like you often tell me, like, Jill, your words of encouragement or lack thereof are so powerful to me, and I need them, and it means so much. Your opinion means more than anyone's. So I think that's a beautiful side of it, is you can, encourage and edify and spur on in the business.
Yeah.
Certainly. What about you? Do you have any highs and lows that come to mind?
Well, I was gonna say I feel like we're more in that first camp, of like when you were in the military. I didn't really know what you did all day, every day at all. So I would so often be like, oh, I wish I was just like a fly on the wall so I could like see him leading or see what he does all day, be a part of it. A lot of times we felt like we were going 2 different directions in the military. Like, you were always with your soldiers and I was at home, and it just felt like there was no connection point there.
And that was that was several years of your marriage, right? 4?
7 on active.
How long have you guys been married?
Well, it'll be 14 in a few weeks.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
So for half of your marriage, Daniel's doing kind of more what I was talking about, but even more so than the 9-to-5, because you would get deployed and be gone,
Right?
Almost no contact for months at a time.
Oh,
Yeah. It was not.
Do not know how you do that.
Yeah. 12 hours days when you're home. The weekends were always fair game for something, or you were deployed.
Yeah, or like gone weeks at a time for training.
That gives you guys a unique context, I feel like, for appreciating how much time
really
you get
has.
to spend.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think that's why I was going to say we're in the first camp, because I would just like dream, like when we were thinking, oh, we want to get out and have a farm. I would just like imagine washing dishes and like seeing Daniel like out in the
Shirtless
field.
in the field.
I'll
say it. I'll say it.
Go on. Just
No.
tilling that garden.
Yeah, there you go. Just that
Okay, I won't say anything
romanticized idea of farming, but just
Yeah.
like being able to look up and like he's there and
Yeah.
like sharing breakfast and sharing lunches together.
That is what we dreamed about.
That's what we did dream about, and now that we
living
get
it, right?
yeah, we get to live it. I mean, it's just such a blessing. So I think that's just a high that also like that I can help him as his wife. Like I couldn't really help you in the military, like I could support him and encourage him, but like to actually like be a need meter. Like on a day-to-day basis in his livelihood and in his calling. I think that's been such a gift. So that's a real high. A low, I would say, is that sometimes we're like, we work together, we homeschool. Like, it's like, do we have any other, like, can we, if those were removed, would we still connect? Like so much of our, even on dates, it's like, we're talking about the business, we're talking about the children, like, is that all that?
Else?
Yeah. Is there anything else to us? Like, are we, so sometimes it feels like we can just be coworkers instead of like, spouses.
Coworkers with privileges.
Yes, right.
Wow.
You might say.
But like just
Versus you
keeping
might
it at
say.
like surface level, like what's, I feel like that you can just get into that rut of not going deeper or just like, and I guess that would be with anybody, not just entrepreneurs, with spouses, but like it's easier because your business is so all consuming. It's so easy to just not go into deeper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I confuse our connection about business dreaming,
Yes.
like meaningful time spent together as husband and wife. That's very convoluted in my mind. I think you spoke to it, the support you have with your spouse, but for us, the being able to work together towards something has been so rich. That's definitely the highest high. Like we have a dream and we're just grinding towards it together, and each of us is dependent on each other, inseparable from each other. And so when little pieces of that dream are realized, boy, it's magnificent for the marriage. And we've had little, breadcrumbs of that along the way. And we're talking about along the way here, but the bread day is a good example. And the Lord kind of formed that, but it was this idea that, okay, people hang out, gather here. And every week when we see that line form, that we just think, no one's going to come today. And then the line backs up. It's like,
never ceases to amaze us.
yeah, it really doesn't. And so that's very encouraging to us marriage-wise, because we've worked to achieve something together, and that feels really life-giving. And the other thing you said, I think we still feel the residual effects of is we've felt the extreme opposite of togetherness in a business. Like we've been away for a long time when death is very real chance. So when we said goodbye on the deployments, like there's a strong chance, more than a strong chance, that, we'll never see each other again. So we have felt that, we've experienced that. And if we take time to think about that, it makes us really deeply appreciate where we're at. And it doesn't mean we don't have conflict. But I think our conflict just feels different. But the conflict we have never surrounds business particulars.
Yeah.
Because I think we do have this unique perspective. Our conflict is outside of the business per se. But those have been some real rich highs.
I think just to continue on, like when you have a dream or, your business, nobody else gets as excited about your business as yourselves, And so like we do share a dream, and I think like trying to communicate it to people, they're like, oh yeah, that's neat. But just that excitement and that passion for it, it's so great to be able to share that with somebody else and your spouse, because it's your dream together. Just like one of your children, like nobody else is going to love one of your children. We talk about that with employees, like they're not going to love it as much as us, and that's okay. And they don't have to, because it's not, their baby, their dreams. So I think I do love that, like that he knows my dream, I know his dream, and we're working towards it together. I think that's a real gift to be able to, like we've been saying, share that with somebody and your best friend.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing?
No.
I think our highest high in business has occurred a few times, but when we're on the couch spitballing new ideas and we latch on one, and then we just kind of volley back and forth, and soon enough we have this vision and this map to get there, and it's like, okay, yes, let's do it. We're doing it. We're gonna do it.
Team on three.
Team on
it's
three.
Like, it's just I get my adrenaline starts pumping.
Yes.
It's just like, okay,
What's an
this is-
example? Give us one.
Yeah.
The bread barn.
Oh man. I don't want to use the bread day example again. The bread barn idea was really significant. Okay, we're going to build a bakery. Oh my! We'll have an Airbnb up top. We'll welcome people here. Then we never have to go work a farmer's market. We just come here, and Get to look
I
at the
remember
numbers.
Fawn's dream of she really wanted to, like, maybe you had worked in a coffee shop or something. You were like, I really want to have my own coffee shop.
Yeah.
bread day we can have coffee.
Like, where
this
did
is
you
your
do
dream?
that?
Yeah.
In your own backyard.
Yeah, I will
In
build
our
it.
garage.
And
Yeah.
soon, and these just it's like a flame being shot with pure oxygen. Just
Yeah.
those have been really some great highlights for us for sure.
Yes.
That's
Love it.
awesome. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of like a specific highlights for us. There's many. I often look at the year 2016 like just objectively as a highlight year for
That
us.
was like the best year of our lives.
Yeah.
We had our first child. I sat front row at an Adele concert.
This is
We went
maybe
to the
just
Bahamas
personal.
twice.
Oh my.
Shoot,
what a
we
baby.
shot weddings.
Didn't Adele talk to you too?
Talk to us.
Yeah. Not
Come
me. I was
on.
in the back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's long
you were
story.
It's neither here nor there. That was just a good year.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I had something I was thinking. It's gone.
What are the struggles I think are maybe more pertinent for people to hear about? But can you put your finger on specific struggles within a business marriage context you've had to encounter and work through, and how you've worked through it, or are they still festering? Like struggle. What does that look
I have a
like?
thought. Do you have a thought?
I've thought. Ladies
Go
first.
ahead, my love. Yeah.
Well, I think we both like to be the boss. Is that what you're going to say?
That's what I was gonna say. We know what it is.
We know. We love to be in charge. And so historically,
It's tough because, when you have two bosses
two chiefs.
that are both in charge of each other, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, there's very few Indians that you're in charge
Yeah, no, actually no
too many
Indians.
cooks in the kitchen.
of. Two chiefs, maybe.
So yeah, that's been a tension. It's so funny. I don't think in my mind I separate business tension versus marriage and life tension. I just see it all as like we are in relationship together, and that's that. And that comes with its own world of exploration. I think I mentioned it earlier, like how we reconcile, how we make decisions, how we fight well, and that just overflows into everything. We happen to be in business together. We happen to, all these things. So I think it starts with our interactions. I don't even remember the question now.
Yeah, no,
That's good.
yeah,
Struggle.
Struggle, yeah.
I feel like the struggle, that particular struggle of both wanting to be the boss and resolving that. I think there's kind of two sides to that coin. One is what you were just saying, which is like how we resolve it. Like not saying this is a rule for any couple that's working together, but for us, the reality is like we don't take the energy to delineate in our relationship a tension, like, oh, that's just a marital tension, or oh, that was just a work tension. It's dinner time now, so let's not feel tension about it. I don't know. We're just not. That's not something in our tool belt that we can just pull out. Okay, disassociate.
Right.
And so for better or for worse, I think that's a nice thing is we don't really think about work-life balance in a relational sense. The goal is just to work towards connection across the board. And we definitely don't do that perfectly, but that's the vision for our marriage. And then I think kind of the other side of that is there is like a practical element to just the timing of conflicts and how we would resolve them. Like when we were wedding photographers, we shot together for a number of years. And
He was my second shooter.
I
was the boss.
You were in charge?
Yeah, Jill was the boss. And at the same time we were farming full time where I was the boss and Jill would be like my helper.
We often joke, if I can interject,
Please, yeah.
that Buddy would be a horrible employee because
Oh, yeah,
you've only had a boss a few times in your life.
Yeah.
But you're
This is true.
you're not built as an employee.
Yeah, this is true.
And I experienced it. We
yeah.
got better. We really grew a lot. And you shooting with me,
Yeah.
we grew a lot. But
Yeah,
you did
definitely.
get fired a fair amount.
Yeah. Oh, I got fired most of the time.
At least once a wedding.
At least
it was
once
like
a
the
wedding.
look like,
Oh no.
oh my gosh.
You did.
You're fired.
Because
that again.
Jill would,
Did you get creative on your own outside of.
Oh yeah, Jill would be like, "Hey, go do pictures of this thing," and I'd be like, "No, I don't need to do that."
And I'm like, excuse me?
Buddy,
Oh my gosh, my eyes would get really intense. And I'm like,
I'm
buddy,
in charge.
do
I
it.
need you to go. I'm like, all right. So I had to really learn and remind myself over and over, like, hey, this is Jill's wheelhouse. Like, she knows what needs to be done. Follow her lead, And I think like you trusting me on the other side, like, okay, buddy knows what needs to be done. He's going to listen to me. I can trust him to do, these parts of the job. That was, yeah. So I think there is like a practical element, I guess is what I was getting at with the tensions and resolving them. Okay. So I think you guys are great at, because of your history with Daniel being gone and for 7 years of the marriage, so much with his life in the Army. I think you guys are really good at appreciating the time you get to spend now. I really admire that about you guys, and it's a good reminder, I think, for Jill and I, who have spent all these 13, almost 14 years always together. So with that said, can you guys give us a recurring conflict you might have and how you've navigated that?
Well, oh dear, I lost my train of thought. So since there isn't really, we've been talking like work-life balance, since there isn't that as, entrepreneurs, and then especially, I mean, you all too, your business is at your house. Like our bread barn is
50 feet.
50 feet from our house. So it's like, it's always there. There's always work that needs to be done. Always like weeds that, just making the place more beautiful to welcome people. Or there's always Poolish, the sourdough starter that needs to be fed.
Wait, it has a name?
No.
No. That's not the
Polish.
What did
His
you
name
say?
is
There's
Polish?
a starter in the Polish. The Polish is a pre-ferment, like the
like-
mother, like the sourdough starter.
That's like a bread
So
term?
there's two different things, and they have to be fed and maintenance.
We don't have a name, do
I was
we?
going to say, we need
We
to
should
name
name-
Polish.
There's
It needs to be like,
Poolish, and then there's starter, and starter doesn't have a
Yeah,
name.
Polish is a yeasted pre-ferment.
Yes.
Sourdough
For,
is
like,
the wild
baguettes
yeast.
Anyway,
like Peter
so
Polish.
Oh gosh.
Sally starter.
Sally starter.
Peter
Starter.
Polish.
Oh man.
Has anybody fed
basic.
Peter today?
Oh man, I feel
Starving.
like our employees.
Sorry,
would
if
be
you
all
had
over that.
glossed over that, everyone that doesn't know anything about bread, like us,
Polish.
we'd have been like, "What? Was that English?
sure,
What do they
the
say?"
We both said it. Yeah, they're what? What's the name of that?
Okay, sorry.
anyway.
So
Anyway,
we digress.
is there a reoccurring conflict, and how do you navigate it?
Polish is a reoccurring thing.
Yeah.
So he always, he always has to go out and feed those.
Peter.
Said yes, Peter and Sally. So it just feels like the struggle, like imagining it, like especially with the military, there was such long hours, and it would be like, I'll be home by 6. Well, then it's like 7:30. That was always like so hard for me. So it was like imagining, okay, when we have our own business and we do it, like the work will be done. He'll be in at 6, but that is like, well, there's not really ever an end to the work, like he's not into the house at 6 o'clock every day or 5:30. Sometimes it's, he comes in for dinner, and then I guess it just started changing because we just hired a new baker, but it would be like dinner time, and then he would have to go back out to the bread barn, like work wasn't done. So I feel like that's a struggle. Just like, expectations maybe of when work is going to be done. You have to go back out there again. Like, I guess I just thought coming into it, we would be able to say like, tell our own hours, but maybe it's just the way of our business. Like, there aren't really set hours, it's like, there's always something that could be done, and also like working with bread, like, no, they have to be worked with right now. Like they have to go in the oven, or they're overproofing or something like that. So, I think that's been a struggle, and maybe just like communication between us, in that, like, I've got dinner on the table and we're like waiting, like, when's dad coming in, like, I don't know, he's still out on the bread barn. So that's just maybe been a struggle. And then also too, I think when we first started the business, it was Daniel and I, just us two, like we were the face of the business, you know, like Fawn and Daniel. And then as we've grown and also having the cafe now that we're open every day, and just bread days are at our house every 2 weeks. So like when we first started, that was our business, like the bread days. So it was him and I together. But now it's kind of like the wholesale orders have really taken over, and the cafe. Well, I'm, you know, at home with the children, and Daniel gets to take the cafe and every day. So sometimes I feel like, well, what's my role? Or like, I'm not the face of the business any longer. You know, like I'm not at the cafe every day making your coffee, you know? So sometimes that's been a struggle. Like, well, Daniel's kind of leading the business. How I don't want to take like the back seat to it, but then also it's like, well,
yeah, all these good ideas were yours to begin with, so
yeah.
You made the menu.
let's not
Right.
forget.
So I think just like that's just totally like a selfish struggle that I, you know, have to work with or work through. And like I did work a day at the cafe just so I could, you know, have a presence there. But then it just seemed like it's too much, you know, to try and get out the door. It throws everything off. But so that's been one of my struggles of like we're facing together, but then like more. And maybe it's just the season right now, you know, with young kids at home, like taking more of a backseat role to the business, and that's okay.
Yeah, and two things. One, we're very much in transition as a business. So I think some of these feel really heightened right now as we, for the first time, I think, feel like we own the business. We don't work for the business. And that feels like a big differentiation for us. We're both kind of feeling out what do we contribute now? You know, we have baristas that can be great baristas. We have bakers that can be great baristas. Our bakers, great bakers, better than us. So hey, how are we? What are we doing? You know, and that's a big lingering question. And then the other piece to realize, it was very easy to look at the military critically and say, man, it just took so much time. It pulled us away from each other. Like, it was just easy to be critical. And then it's even more so in small business for yourself, because your life literally depends on it. In the military, you're going to get that Uncle Sam's going to pay you every 2 weeks, regardless of your job performance. This is a very demanding environment, especially with employees. Like, everything is riding on your work performance. So the necessity to get up from the table at night, like, it's absolutely critical to the business. You know, so learning that our small business can be even more consuming than the military. I think it's something we've had to work through, that expectation together as well. But,
and you've said several times, like, you've worked harder now, way harder now running your own business than you ever did in the military.
I think so. Yeah, certainly at different points, for sure.
I was gonna say that sandstorm story.
We
heard. That's true.
Listen, I never cried in the sandstorm story. I have cried as a small business owner, and I hate to admit it.
But
it's true.
Don't feel bad. That's good.
I do, but it happened.
It's because you care.
It's because you care. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Real men cry.
Anyway, Fawn will address that later. What I want to talk about? Oh, one of my biggest realization in marriage, in this marriage business, doing it together, has been the importance of. There's two different ways to say it, of yielding to each other or being gracious with each other. And I'm learning that. It started learning it in like year 13 of our marriage. I feel like really learning it in year 14, and how essential that is for. Did I get my years right?
Yeah, we're not on 14 yet.
Well, you're in maybe your 14th
You're in your
year.
14th year.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
She's right, buddy. I'm not. About yielding and being gracious. And that is so critical to our success, or perceived success, or how we're doing, is tied to how gracious we're being with each other. And to realize there are so many lingering things that we could hold on to, and choosing not to in the interest of your marriage and moving forward man, that's been really important to learn.
Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
I think that that's a really powerful point, because you have stuff you got to get done in a business that's time sensitive, that's people sensitive, all that kind of stuff. That's just tasks, right? And so it can be easy to get sort of mechanical with your spouse and like, hey, did you get this done? Okay, cool. I'm going to go do this, So what's a way that you guys have found that you can like stand for being, like, how do you remind yourself to be gracious when you're in the midst of that? Or are there any just sort of like
practical?
Yeah, like simple things you think about or that you do that help you turn towards each other instead of be kind of running separate paths?
Mm-hmm. I think some of it's conversation. I'm interested to see what you say, but for me, it's a lot of self-talk in that Fawn is my best friend. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. And she is so important to me and what I'm doing. Why would I let this fester and become an issue? It's not going to contribute anyway to our marriage or the business. So like talking to myself very objectively about that really helps me move towards Fawn, or ask for forgiveness, or say, hey, I didn't do the best. And we just kind of walked through one of those, where we had a total disagreement and I needed to ask for forgiveness. And so identifying, okay, what do I need to ask forgiveness for? And then Fawn making a conscious choice to be gracious. So I don't, the methodology here is weak, but I just have to remind myself that, man, what a luxurious position we're in here as best friends working on our dream job together. I don't want to jeopardize that with pettiness. But learning to be gracious has been really, really important. And what helps with that in a business sense is having, for us, clearly defined roles. Fawn's not going to go advise our head baker on the hydration percentage of the starter. It's not going to happen. Sally's, that's not going to happen. And in the same way, I'm not going to meddle with the fine points of the menu, because I think there needs to be more lime in the avocado toast. Like that's Fawn's lane. When there is overlap, those feel to be the pieces where the graciousness is paramount, where I do leave the dinner table for the 5th night in a row, 3 times during a night. And like there's overlap between what her responsibilities are and mine are in that moment. And do we choose to be gracious or do we not to? But what has helped us is having roles and responsibilities clearly defined as we lead the business. Does that make sense? But yielding and being gracious, and there hasn't been a hill that we've chosen to die on business wise, like I'm planting my flag. You're either with me or I'm moving on. Like it just hasn't come to that. And I don't foresee that needing to be the case at any point. And so if that's not the case, if there isn't a hill you need to die on, we'll just make the choice to be gracious. And that's usually preceded by a really healthy conversation with each other. Open communication. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of talking around the solution, but
Fawn, what would you say is a practical that works for remembering to be gracious?
I know I'm not very good at it. Daniel's so much better about it than I am.
How gracious of you to say so.
Maybe you're better than you think.
Just like, and him reminding us.
Being truthful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can very easily
Dan's
hold grudges.
Me too. Buddy calls me Ice Queen.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot, but my tendency is
still struggle.
Yeah, is just to be bitter sometimes.
Yes. Like Daniel, just like what he was just talking about. He had to drive out to Illinois to deliver some beef to some customers out there. And so he drove there in one day and then came back the next day. So I was like,
what,
I just
12-hour
don't
drive?
agree with this at all. Like, this is not a good use of your anyways. So, but he was, he called me, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I'm like, I'm still bitter, but by the time you get back, I think I'll be,
I can be over it.
48 hours.
What can I expect when I walk in the door?
Bracing for impact.
Yeah.
Also, too, I think Daniel just he's been in the thick of it in war, like being shot at and commanding or leading soldiers like in life or death. I remember we were driving one of my best friends like around Chicago, and like after he got back from deployment, and you took a wrong turn. Or no, she told us the wrong directions, and it got us stuck in like so much Chicago traffic. And Daniel was not mad at all. He was just like, oh, it's all right, no worries. And she was so blown away by that. Just like the men in my family would be so pissed right now, but I just think like his perspective of like, this is not life or death. Yeah. It's really okay. So I think he helps me like calm down, because I can get worked up quickly or have bitterness or, be rude. But we really try not to raise our voices. I think before we got married, or maybe he was like, we will never yell at each other. And I was like, oh goodness, like that's a lofty goal.
It's a lofty goal indeed.
Just because I think in his family, like he never saw his parents raise their voices at each other.
Of course they never did.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
I did not grow up in a family that, was.
Would you consider
yelling.
yourself a yeller? Like pre that, would you have been a yeller in your own?
Probably. Well, I don't know.
Attitude.
Yes, attitude. And then I can definitely raise my voice at the children.
Yeah.
Like I don't yell at Daniel, but I can yell
God,
at them.
I can't imagine that. I'll come over one day and just see it.
So he's so much better. He's a great leader in that, because my natural tendency would be to be bitter and hold a grudge. And so I follow his lead.
God, we could really take a page from that.
That's interesting. I'm a yeller in general.
No, you're just loud.
Just loud. Yeah, I don't even realize I'm yelling. This morning when
it's a Powers family.
We're getting the kids out the door, and I'm just yelling up to them,
barking.
Like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
I know,
it's time to get going.
You don't have
breakfast is ready. Jill's like, you don't have to yell it. I'm like, I'm sorry.
the stress level for me just rises with the
So I'm just used to
volume.
yelling. You're right. I don't have to yell it.
Yeah.
But that's sweet. I'm encouraged to hear that graciousness, setting some parameters on what we are or not going to do. That's great.
Yeah, there's another way to put it. I think of is like treasuring your spouse. That's so important to find ways to do that when you're working together, because there's so many, like you're bringing in stresses outside the marriage into your relationship with the work responsibilities. So I feel like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of ways that we even do that. One dumb way that I always have dumb solutions to problems.
You're not dumb.
I would say they're simple. Maybe is the nicer way to put it. I like to say dumb.
Simple,
though.
critical.
Simple, man. But when Jill calls me, her photo is a picture I found years ago. You guys may have seen this. You're probably 3 years old, and it's just a picture of sweet little 3-year-old Jill, 4-year-old Jill, whatever, all dressed up for some very formal picture, and she's just sitting there in this cute little dress. Basically, might sound weird, but it helps me like humanize Jill. Like, remember, hey,
she's a cute little girl.
this is not that you're a little girl at all, but just that, like, hey, like this is a real person. This is, because it can be. I think usually when I'm not gracious and not treasuring you, I'm totally in my story about the frustration I have around you and the what I make up around who that means that you are. Like, oh, she doesn't support me if we're in a disagreement about something, or she doesn't believe in the work that or the project I want to do, whatever. I start to make up all this stuff around who I think you are without even, talking through it. So it's helpful to remember to like treasure you the way I treasure our children, and when I see you call, sometimes it's like, oh, cute little Jill. She was a little kid.
She's yelling at me, but it
reminds me of we have 3 daughters, so it reminds me of their sweet little ways. And helps me sometimes get off my story.
Yeah. And it seems like any conflict in marriage, if you're not asking yourself, what can I do better, or where did I go wrong, you're really barking up the wrong tree. If you're trying to identify what your spouse did that had
it's their fault.
Yeah, that has been critical for us, is you look at yourself. And a really wise business mentor was talking about this to me, when we were talking about, I had a particular situation in which I was frustrated, not with Fawn, but with someone else within the business. And he said, all right, I understand that frustration with the person, but where did you fail them as the leader of the business? And there was a clear failure on my part, but I hadn't asked myself that question. And I think I think I'm better at it in the marriage context than in the business context. But okay, why is Fawn so upset about me driving beef out to, okay, I can understand, because there was another method, and I'm a terrible driver. So like there's different, I can understand. So we're going to have a conversation about this, and I have to apologize for not being openly communicative. Like, instead of being embittered to Fawn for being angry at me for driving the beef, like where am I failing as her husband, or where have I dropped the ball? Starting with that question, vice identifying something that your spouse has done wrong is really healthy working with your spouse in the business, I think. And that is helpful to apply to other areas, but I think that's a way that, we managed some of those situations for sure.
Yeah, the way we often talk about it is the idea of staying in your backyard. Like, it can be, if you think of a suburban backyard with fences, that everybody has their own little square, that it's like tempting in a marriage to go over to your spouse's, the fence between you and your spouse's backyard, and be like, hey,
rake them
see
leaves.
all those problems? Yeah. You got to clean that up.
Like crap over
and
here.
Just ignore and have your back turned to your own backyard.
You have a forest fire in your backyard.
Where you can actually do something. You can't work. You're not working in your neighbor's backyard in this hypothetical scenario. You're only in charge of your own backyard. So yeah, that's something that's a phrase we'll remind each other of. Like,
get out of my backyard.
I think you're in my backyard right now.
Yeah, and not to continue to spin this, but if you both have that mindset to your own backyards, I feel like at that point you can speak into each other's life. You can edge into that backyard when there's a mutual understanding of, I'm not attacking you, but hey, this is something we need to consider. How you talk to that employee. I think that was a little bit much. So I feel like there are times to jump the fence, but there have to be the, you know what I'm after here. If you're both starting from the right place, you can have that overlap.
And knowing that you're for each other.
Yes.
And not
Yeah.
just attacking.
Yeah, just trying to do things better.
Yep.
Yeah.
As we flesh that out, can we jump to the identifiable advantages to working with your spouse in business? Because I think there are many. But buddy, do you want to kick us off down that road?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I think that one of the big ones I always think of for any couple that's working together is that when you're married and you're working on a business, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It can be, there's some guy that quotes it, 1 + 1 is 1,000,000 or something. But the fact that you have this combined energy that can be like mutually supportive is so stinking powerful and can be so fun. Because like I was saying before, we all have our different skill sets. So the things that Jill's not going to conquer, I can knock out. And the things that I would never do well or would take great energy to do well, Jill can just crush. And we can be all of a sudden making these dynamic moves that by myself, just not a possibility.
Yeah.
I love
Here.
I love a good brainstorm, and anybody that knows me knows that, because I just love to spitball ideas, and it can
you're
be
very good
with
at
our
it.
business, your
So
business,
good.
Joe Schmo's business. Call me. I love to brainstorm.
Yeah, you need to be in a think tank.
I
Yes.
have I just love, it's just such a fun creative game for me. But so I think
There have been many
Yeah.
conversations with you all where it's like we're going to have a hangout, and then you're so good at entering into someone else's story in that way. The business, it's more often than not we end up talking about our business and not your business, but you are so
yours is
good
more
at
fun
that.
right now. It's more dynamic right now.
So good.
We've
at
been
that.
so
Yeah.
grateful.
I do love it.
For your
So
ideas.
that's a perk of, you guys kind of mentioned it, but a perk of being married and in business together is that any moment could become a brainstorming moment, or like you did it yesterday, and I started to get like I was sitting on the couch trying to do like a grocery order or something, and he came in. He's like, "I got some ideas. I need to tell you something."
Ready for bed? Yeah, I was like, I got to download you on some ideas.
Yeah, some things that have happened today, and just got me thinking. And I was like, okay. So I kind of just went from like,
it's like a snowball, and then her energy enters into the spark of the idea, like you were saying before, Dana. Before you know it, that snowball's rolling, and it's like,
I'm like 10 years down the road, like, and then this could be, and then this, and I just love it. So that's fun that you can just kind of impromptu business meetings and brainstorms, and there's always the ideas flowing. As a creative, I love that.
Babe, you gonna go with the biggest advantage?
Yeah. I just love not being alone in something, like putting yourself out there, starting a business. Is it going to fail? Is it going to succeed? I just love having you at my back or together. And I think Daniel and I are both risk takers. Y'all probably are too. I think you kind of have to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, I'm not necessarily a risk taker.
Jill's not innately. That's where
I'm a dreamer.
Conflict is?
Yeah.
Well, not even. It's just
it could be, but it could be also our superpower. Like I'll hit the gas.
Ben Beichler, he was like, I'm the gas, she's the brake. It's kind of
that applies.
I love to dream, but then when we start to do something, I'm like, I get really scared. So it's a good
She's
balance.
like, wait, you're actually doing it? I'm like, yeah, we talked about it. You said it.
Like in
It was your idea. I already got all the excavators are here.
Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so I like to take a little bit of risk, calculated risk. So,
I feel like we both are big risk takers, and it's more fun, I don't know, to just jump in with somebody. But, we have definitely failed, but I just feel like that's having a best friend alongside. I mean, we've already talked about it, but I would just say I just love that about it.
Yeah, when you had that revelation about what this is what I'm really good at. You went through that season a few years ago of like,
remember, Jill? I was
what am I really good at?
What am I good at? Yes.
Yeah. Like,
what do I bring to the
at?
table?
So I think it's been fun in our business together to find outlets for you to express those things and what you're really good at, and watching you discover those things has been really a rewarding part of the business we didn't anticipate. And it really came about when you were decorating the Airbnb. You got rave reviews. It looked amazing. And you're like, oh, I'm really good at decorating spaces and welcoming people into those spaces. And that's been really helpful for us to identify in our business. So that's been a huge perk. And then I really enjoy the thrill of, and it hasn't burned us yet, kind of what you're describing, of going all in on our vision. Like we spend every last dollar and then some on the bakery and the Airbnb. And we went all in, and there was no other option than to make the ship float. And I liked having our back against the wall together in that, and I feel like we're at our best in that moment. That's been really thrilling for me in business together. But those two things, watching you discover what you're really good at, and kind of being in tight situations with you where the other is all we have. I find that really thrilling. I find that really thrilling. So
love it. So we thought we could get towards the end of the podcast with a thought for each person to share. What would be your advice to any couple out there that's currently working together, or that maybe dreams of starting a business together? What would you say to them?
Who goes first?
Anybody, whoever.
Anybody, Jill.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Well, Jill, you said you had a real zinger. So.
Because we're all experts.
You said it was really good, right?
No, I have something. I'm going to read something. But obviously, the disclaimer is we are actively learning. We are never going to have arrived. And so we're not experts at this. I always feel like when you're like, give us some advice, it's like,
yeah, we're not gurus or something.
Yeah, it's because you know it all. We really don't. Trust me. But I mentioned her earlier, but our good friend and marriage coach, Julia Woods, she is such a resource to us and is just so skilled at building thriving relationships and helping us do that. And so she just posted something on Instagram the other day, and I just felt like this was so poignant for me because it really, I think, describes our journey in business and in marriage. So the post is the number one reason why you feel disconnected from your spouse, and that is because you're not reconciling conflict. And so when we have misunderstandings or act defensively or say hurtful things, we get offended. And when we get offended, it can turn to bitterness. And then bitterness creates this thin layer of self-protection between you and your spouse. And over time, those thin layers can become a wall. And before you know it, you really just, you can hate each other. You can be so against each other. And that's obviously not good for marriage, obviously not good for business. And it's just a miserable way to exist. And we did that for several years. So I think that's like such a good, in a nutshell, for my advice to anybody in marriage in general, but especially if you're in business together, is don't let bitterness and resentment become a wall between you. You have to learn how to reconcile and do it well. And it is a lot of just like swallowing your pride, owning how you messed up. And it's really just humbling yourself. I can tangibly feel it like in my gut or like in my chest sometimes. Like when I know I need to humble myself, I can feel it. I'm like, oh, and I think of it, I'm so visual. I think of it like just this rough part of my sin nature that just, there's another edge that needs to be refined. And it's a gift, really. It doesn't feel good in the moment, but it is a gift. And so we are constantly trying to, or striving to not let the wall be built back up again, because we really had to unlearn a lot of bad habits and ways of interacting with each other. And so that would be my biggest thing, is to learn how to connect and not let bitterness grow between you.
That's
Next.
good.
Love that. I should have gone before you, Jill. That was so good.
Mine is not, as eloquent, but I think just having being direct and honest up front at the beginning, when you're starting to communicate. And just like a lot of times I would not say exactly what I was thinking or feeling or what I wanted in a situation, just like willing Daniel to know it. Like, come on, he has to know this. Like, read my mind. And then getting mad, or bitter when he didn't know know what I was thinking, or like exactly where I wanted the daybed, or, or something in the Airbnb. But just like in grace, like being direct and honest with your ideas and like how you might want things to go about, but also like open to communication in that way. And, but like not just assuming that the other person will know exactly what you're saying, or see it the exact same way, because then there's just expectations and confusion, and then it leads to, arguments or whatnot. Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's what I would just up front, and I can totally still work on that, but I feel like we've grown in that way.
Yeah.
I love that.
Also, like, I feel like at the beginning of marriage and in business, like afraid to offend or like hurt his feelings by saying something. I feel like you'd say, now I just like say hurtful things. Like maybe I just need to find the middle ground. Like before I wouldn't say anything, and now I say really hurtful things. I need to find that balance.
Buddy, we've never had a season where we were afraid to offend.
Yeah.
So I just respect that you even had a season where you were like afraid to hurt his feelings.
I was, for sure.
That's really sweet.
That's really sweet. That was like week 2 of dating. We were over that.
Yeah.
Kidding, kind of. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
So my thought was a simple one, per usual, but I thought I could sum it up with the quote from Laird Hamilton, which I like to say.
Laird.
Is he a surfer?
The big wave surfer.
Yeah, the big wave surfer.
Right.
The best looking 57-year-old ever.
He's in insane shape. Anyway,
you digress.
I digress. He's got a bunch of workout videos. Check him out. But, not him. Check out the workouts. But yeah, he famously said, so he's getting some interview, blah, blah. Somebody asked him for some, what's your secret, whatever, blah, blah. And he just looks at him and says, drive fast, take chances. And then he walks away. That's it. Nice. So I think that kind of sums up for us. I think it's what's worked well is when, kind of like what you were saying, Fawn, when we take chances and are just really honest with each other. Doesn't always lead to the easiest conversation, right? So it's vulnerable and it's risky, but that is ultimately what's produced the most growth for us, and I think caused the most connection for us. So, like you said, Joel, we don't have it figured out by any stretch of the imagination.
We have our coaching call actually in 30
right
minutes
after this podcast. So we still have a lot of work to do. But I think anybody listening, just in marriage, that applies. And especially if you go into business, there's going to be just that need to take risks. And drive fast basically just means go for it to me. Hit the gas pedal.
I'd like to quote Napoleon.
Oh, goodness.
Which
Is this going to be
Napoleon?
in French or English?
Or is this the movie
Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah. Which Napoleon are we talking about?
I think my advice would be, I can be prone to this, my idea is the way that we'll go, because I have this great idea, so you need to come on board with it. And I think that is not how to do business together well. And so to make big decisions a conversation, and don't try to exert my will upon my spouse or Fawn to do that to me just to get the desired outcome. The beauty about doing the business together is it's a conglomeration of your ideas, and a little of yours, little of mine together is the best solution. Most usually. And so not trying to convince you that my idea is the best. And the beauty in taking your spouse's idea and seeing that come to fruition. We joke that all the good ideas we've had have been yours that we've run with. And there's a lot of truth to that. And there's also just a real beauty in watching an idea of yours come to fruition. And that's really cool for me. But I think that needs to be approached delicately, those big decisions, and being willing to take your spouse's idea or having it be a mutual decision, vice exerting what you want on your spouse in a particular business decision. That's not setting yourself up for that richness that we've described. So that's what Napoleon said long ago. Yeah, that's what I would.
That's so good.
I think too, obviously in marriage it's the same way, but running a business together, you get a front row seat to see your spouse have their highest highs. We were saying in the car, having one of your ideas come to fruition and be successful, that is so addicting and it's so fun. Such a high, but then you also get the front row seat of seeing the lowest lows, if something, a failure, or something doesn't go wrong, or the finances, so you're gonna see that those opposites, and just being able and ready to be that constant, presence for them, helping them through that.
Either way,
either way, and right. I think that's what's going to happen, running your own business, those highs and those lows.
Love it.
Random question before the lightning round. The number one thing that causes marital strife is what?
Finances. Sex.
Finances. We'll speak to the finances.
Yeah.
You're allowed to
what did you say?
I said, am I not allowed to say that?
She said sex. Aren't there is it John Gottman or someone defines the top 5? I don't know what they are, but I think there's money, sex, work. I don't actually know what they are. I know everybody at home is probably it's these obvious things. I can't think of it.
I read once that, and I think it's pertinent to the conversation, is finances. Have you ever had discord in your marriage as a result of the business finances? Like, oh man, this is rough. You know, has that created any conflict that you had to work through? Because I think a lot of people that I've talked to who have a cool idea, they're just afraid to take the jump, is the financial piece that's concerning, especially in the marriage where there's a lifestyle they don't want to walk away from, whatever. Have you all experienced conflict from financials at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's been, I mean, are you thinking a specific example or?
I'm more
How we handle
looking,
that?
Would you tell up and people that are starting out on this journey, like, yeah, this needs to be a point of emphasis to be on the same page as your spouse with this, or has it not been an issue for you all?
I mean, I think one thing that it comes back to for us is whose is roles in the businesses that we're doing. So like, and then not to say that alleviates all tension, but that helps a lot. Like Jill, when we were doing the photography business, if she needs to buy another camera, might have a conversation about that. But ultimately, like, I might have some questions, but I'm going to lean towards whatever she thinks we need for that business. Cause I'm not the expert there. And then farming wise, we definitely have conversations because farming can be a bit of a black hole of spending money on various tools.
But he loves a new tractor.
Implements and tractors and such. Anywho. But at the end of the day, I think Jill, you would say, right? You trust me. Like, hey, if I'm like, I really think we need this. I think this is going to, increase our efficiency, save us money, make us more money, whatever.
Yeah, we're pretty similar though with our approach to money. I guess money and finances, for better or worse. So I think everybody's so different though. Some people have a lot of fear around it, very frugal, and the other person's like the spender. And I don't know that we're that extreme. So I just feel like there's nothing like groundbreaking.
It would almost be better maybe if we were more different.
I honestly
we
wish
are
I was
fairly
more
similar.
more extreme.
I'm just curious.
But it definitely is attention, especially like you mentioned earlier. Like, it's your livelihood. It's God's goodness in your life, obviously. But I mean, really, it's a lot of how you're showing up in your business. It does affect your income. So
yeah, certainly during the lean times. What would you say? Has that been an issue?
I would say we're both spenders, and but I wouldn't say. Would you?
No, I think we both. Yeah, there hasn't been a season. There probably should have been a season, but there hasn't been a season where we've been like, ooh, we need to slow down the spending.
Right.
There definitely should have been that season, but it hasn't been a tension.
I think usually if the business needs something, we both are like, it needs it.
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Do you want to move into the lightning round?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me check.
So we'll start off with my favorite first lightning round question.
I'm nervous.
Wives of the podcast, what is your favorite footwear for your footwear of choice when you're working around the farm or the bakery or the
Just life.
creative studio, Jill?
Birkenstocks.
Oh. Like a clog or a sandal?
Sandal.
Oh, the classic Birkenstock sandal. Wow.
Well, I mean, that's just like while I'm, at home, homeschooling. And then while I'm working, like slinging shots, Hokas.
Hokas. I have some Hokas. And they are
Jill's got a lot of options to choose from of her favorite footwear.
I'm basically just trying to get a pit or just like some sponsors.
Yeah, there we go.
Hoka, if you want to
Hoka,
sponsor.
we love you.
Oh, I like them too. Yeah.
Maybe. You know what I love? I'm just a sucker for, because I'm not out moving cows in a field, So that's
Not often.
Not often.
Not anymore.
It's more for looks, I'm just getting some Instagram content. But I love a good cowgirl boot, cowboy boot, whatever. And recently we really like Tecovas. They're, I think, an Austin-based company. Mm-hmm. I spent some time in Austin back in the day.
Tecovas, feel free to sponsor us.
Tecovas. Come on. I just love them.
We're just waiting.
They make a great boot, and it's actually really affordable as boots go for high quality. I think they're like handmade.
Is that what you wore to your wedding?
Some terrible shoe brands.
It's going to reach out.
And we're going to be in like these hemp
Yeah.
hemp thongs, you know.
Sandals that we're farming in, and like our toes are all broken. And we love these sandals, though. Thank you for sponsoring the podcast.
We've arrived.
Okay, I got question 2 then as well. Or I'll skip one. You can do the 2. So, Fawn, I'm curious. What are you, if you can share, what are you excited about on either the current menu or if there's an upcoming menu that you could divulge?
Right now, my favorite thing on the menu is the full spread. It's a sandwich with our cranberry walnut bread. That was fun because we've never used any other flavor of bread besides our traditional sourdough. But it's cranberry walnut, turkey, cheese, cranberry sauce, apples, red onions, and arugula. And I was just trying to think of like a, Thanksgiving.
I was going to say, yeah, it's almost
folly.
a Thanksgiving sandwich, but a little fresher with the arugula and onions. Yeah.
And then upcoming, some of our employees have been talking about, I know you love it, a lox. Is that how you say it? Lox bagel.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Smoked
great. You guys are going to make bagels?
No,
Yeah.
they do make bagels.
Wait,
We've had them.
I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh. I knew that,
Well,
and I
I'm
love
such a
them.
fatty. I just
recently-
always go for the Danishes and stuff.
We just recently started having the bagels
Every day.
They're
every morning
delicious.
because they require boiling and baking. So just like getting to that point where we could do that, we've just arrived at. So thinking of having something like that starting in January after Christmas break.
Fantastic. I'll be there.
Jill and Fawn, considering the entrepreneurial journey, who inspires you in your work? And I guess it could be business related, could be in mothering, wifing. Who inspires you?
There you go.
Well, of course, Joanna Gaines. She's such an inspiration of,
Why?
well, just seeing them work together, entrepreneur, or, having a business together, her love of beauty and her love of all things home. I think like I've always loved those things, but didn't realize like what huge effects they have like on raising children or just having a beautiful home and welcoming people. So she just kind of encouraged me in those ways and inspired me. And then my mom, she was an entrepreneur. I watched her run her own business for 30 years of my life. And I think a lot of that like has given me the courage to, we can do this. We can. Oh, and like she owned a gourmet food business, like would make, our chili mix, if you've ever had our chili mix, that's my mom. And she would, every Christmas, she would turn our house into a craft show. Like that's where she would sell over things, was a craft show.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, every December, our house, we would have vendors from around the area come set up a craft show in our house. And then, you could come shop at our house, have Christmas cookies, the
Whoa. I
Christmas
love
music
that.
was going.
You guys
And
are
I
carrying
think
on the
that-
legacy of
I
that
know.
with Bread Day
I
and
think
Vendor
that
Days.
really put something in my longing and my being of like hospitality in our business, welcoming people to our home.
And you
the
were already
beauty of that.
familiar with it.
And
It wasn't strange.
Right. And I already had seen it played out. So that was a huge inspiration.
And her work ethic too. We always
Yes.
comment. I think you got that from her. And your
She's
dad.
always cheerfully ready to help no matter what we ask her. And your mom too. I mean, Marlene, just inspiration for life, period.
She's the podcast mascot.
She is.
We love Marlene.
She gets so many shout outs because
She
we
does.
love her so much.
We need to have,
To know her is
Oh,
to
if
love
she
her.
what could
came
be
on.
her brick and mortar business that she could get on here?
She should just be on here.
Counseling, life counseling.
Yeah.
Everyone needs
Yeah.
to meet Marlene.
Is that my question?
You're
That's-
up. Yeah.
Who inspires me? I am inspired by a lot of people. Like, of course, like I love Joanna Gaines too. I would say someone I know. Our best friends, Caitlin and Michael Alsop. They live in Richmond and they have started their own school. And Caitlin's a photographer and she does a lot of education for photographers. But I love the way they, since college, we've seen it. But Caitlin's so driven and her work ethic is just admirable. Wait, is that a word?
Admirable.
Admirable. Sorry. And so that's been fun to watch. Just get like a front row seat of her building this amazing business, and then them together starting a school, and just really cool. And then the way that they're able to seamlessly share, just so vulnerably share their lives, like good and really bad things. Like they're just able to share, and watching their impact has just been really fun to see. So yeah, I admire them.
It's great.
I love it. I second that. I've got another question for you. If you weren't doing what you're currently doing in your entrepreneurial experience, what would you want to be doing? Instead doing a lot of that.
I have like a.
Do you have a doc?
I do. I have a note in my phone, obviously, like for a Pinterest board,
Jill
a note
would.
in my phone
Yeah.
for all these things. But I think this is just a quick, like, I know nothing about this, but we were wedding photographers for 11 years. We now own a wedding venue. So we've been in the wedding world for a while. And this dream of, wouldn't it be fun to own a bridal boutique that, like, with wedding dresses, downtown Lexington, like a cute storefront on Main Street, exposed brick on the inside, like this really fun environment.
And would you love designing it or operating it or?
I don't know. I think I'd love it all. I think I'd love to meet with brides and just watch them
It'd be so
pick a
good.
dress. And this is I'm only talking about the lovely parts of it. I know there would be so much timelines and issues and alterations and expectations. There'd be a lot of that too. But in theory, I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be so fun to start a bridal
You could be
boutique?
great at that too.
So you'd be an entrepreneur still.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Like, I just can't, I have so many ideas that I think, like,
You do.
wouldn't that be fun? So that's just a pipe
Permanent
dream.
jewelry
That's
there
one
too.
of many great. That's a great
Yeah,
idea,
there's
babe.
so many fun things. Anyway,
That's great.
that's one.
Fawn,
Well,
Olympic swimmer.
Olympic swimmer.
Oh, gosh.
Fawn was
No
a
way.
collegiate swimmer.
I wouldn't. Nope. I would also be an entrepreneur and have
Bridal
a little
suite? A bridal
retail shop connected to your
Yes.
bridal suite.
Done.
Perfect.
There we go. I would love to just sell home decor.
Yes.
I would love to buy it all and have
go
it
to
all.
the market.
Stage it all.
Yes.
So we could go to the markets together, and
Great.
I'll just do the bridal stuff, the bridal shows, and you can come with me, and then I'll go to the home
Okay.
decor.
This is great.
See?
Lexington.
New business.
Get ready.
We
Watch
got to think
out.
of a name, but we'll figure it out.
I might know a place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
That's great. That's
Great.
great. Thank you all for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this
been-
was
It's been
great.
so fun.
The Wives of the Podcast, long anticipated. We talked about this when we first had the idea of what if we did a podcast. We're thinking about who could be on the podcast. We're like, oh, we got to get Fawn and Jill to be on the podcast.
Give the people what they want, you know?
That's right. Our YouTube views are going to go through the roof now.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Love
you.
you
We
guys.
love ya.
Also, we're really proud of you. I know I
Yeah.
speak for Fawn, but it's so fun to watch you guys. I obviously get the literal front row seat behind the camera, but it's been fun to watch you guys grow this. So
Oh, love
can't
you.
wait
Yeah.
to see where it goes and all the sponsorships you're going to get.
That's right.
I know.
Birkenstocks.
Hemp shoe.
Tacovas.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been really sweating down here. I can't believe you guys do this every week.
I know.
The hot spot. Well
Good
done.
job.
Thanks, guys.
All right.